Yeah, thank you.
What did we do with our little noisemaker?
Oh, I put him on the shelf.
Okay.
I was gonna say that's me. I
So there we go.
great.
Awesome.
You're gonna
We
want
have
it.
a little yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah, good idea.
He'll just do the fart noises the entire time.
Oh no.
I'm funny. I like to think I'm funny.
We know you do.
I can leave. There's somebody else who can finally put you in your place. This is great.
And it's weird
No,
because
we
she's
work
like,
together.
Exactly.
Now.
yeah.
Don't leave me.
Don't leave me alone with him. Anything but that.
Now you know how I
Anything
feel
but that.
running a podcast with him every
This
week.
is true. Yes.
This is
You
the
have my
tallest
greatest
stool I've
memories.
ever sat in.
See, we should have put me on the tall stool, cause this. Yeah, it's okay. I'm short already. I'm used to it.
It's cool. I'm just outrageously tall right now.
Yeah.
It's just
Just
that time
wants
of
to
year
lord
where
over
I
us.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
fine.
the cold makes me grow. It's like when trees or doors expand or whatever in the cold.
I think that happens when it's wet. It doesn't.
I was
happen
gonna
when
say
it's
that
cold.
doesn't happen when. I think it shrinks when it's cold.
I did just take a shower,
I don't.
so
I don't think that's how it works. Cause now every time you take a shower, you're gonna have to get taller.
nice.
That's a horror story waiting to happen.
It's like you walk in and you don't bang your head on the little hanger thing, and then you grow in the shower, and then on your way you're like, oh. And that's the joke.
Is this why this door goes all the way up to the ceiling? Because
Exactly.
we're preparing.
We're
just in
preparing
case.
just in case, yeah. Just in case I grow in the middle of the podcast.
It's great. Yeah, we gotta make sure we can kick you out eventually.
Mhm.
It's very important.
Yeah.
Yes, this will become our podcast by the end of it. We'll get rid of him.
We'll just slow. That's why he's on the end, so we
And-
can just
Yeah,
slowly,
you
like,
push him
literally
out.
shove him out.
Mhm.
I like it.
They were trying to
Okay.
keep me out of frame before we started.
That's not true. That's a lie.
You were the one who set up the camera. If you wanted to be
Yeah.
in frame, you should have
Should've
put
set
yourself
it
in
in
frame.
You guys think you're so funny. You are.
See, we are. We don't have to say it
Yeah.
because people already know.
We don't have to be the person that walks in the room and goes, "I'm in charge." We just walk in the room and people are like, "You're in charge," and it's like, "Yes, there we
Yeah.
go." There
I
we
just
go.
like to say I'm in charge, especially when I'm not in charge, to see how many people will think I'm in charge, and then I can
How is
just
that? When has it ever worked out for you?
not well and never. Yeah.
So far, we have a consistent theme that no one believes Taylor is in charge.
That's completely fair though.
It's valid.
It's valid.
To be fair, you've always done it in situations you are not in charge.
Yeah, and that's the best time to do it because then someone's like, especially if there's like a power vacuum in the room, and it's like, is this? I guess he said he's in charge. All the dudes will be like, I'm deferring to this guy because he said he's in charge, and that's enough for me. And all the women are like, what is he? What is
No.
he
He's
doing?
not
No,
qualified.
he is not. They'll go do their own thing then. We'll do the
Exactly.
real work here.
If he's in charge, I'm leaving. You know?
Then all the guys are like lifting me up and like chanting like Taylor, Taylor, Taylor,
I feel
and then
like
I'm.
this is just like a dream he
Yeah,
had
this
at
is
this
a
point.
fantasy
This is
thing.
No.
I don't know
No.
what part of the fantasy is all the women leave the room, but I'm a little concerned on that.
Me and the boys.
Me and the boys.
You and the boys. Yeah.
That's what you want, Taylor. That's what you want.
This is why we had to close the door, isn't it? That way you and I couldn't leave.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Good to know.
It's me and
Good
the
to know.
boys. Anyway, this is me for the intellectually impoverished. I'm Taylor.
I'm Randy.
And I'm Sarah.
We did it!
You're supposed to hit the clap button.
Oh.
Oh.
It's not, and it goes too long.
It's just a long, awkward clap.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
exactly.
that's why we
Because
like it.
we did it wrong.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's, that sounds right.
And this is the podcast that.
Enriches your mediocre lives.
Am I supposed to say something
No.
at
No,
that
I'm
point?
just waiting.
Okay.
I'm waiting for her to hit the
For
button
hit the
again.
button again? Do you want to be in charge of it then? But clearly I can't do it right. But don't press the fart button!
You gave him too much power.
Immediately you regretted
I
your
did.
decision.
I did. I'm gonna cut it off. I'm gonna cut the button off and then you won't ever be able to
I
press it
tried to
again.
remove the button in the beginning, and you were like, "No, don't break
No,
it."
you wanted to remove the burping one.
Yeah, that one's gross.
Yeah.
We'll just get a pair of, like, pliers and just, like,
Rip
remove
it
the
out.
dot.
Mhm.
Yeah. Don't cut it off, because then you can still, like,
Alright, so
hi.
hello.
Hello.
I was like, is that the transition? I don't know.
We're doing our best.
Yeah, Rainey has some questions she'd like to ask you before we get
There we
started.
go. I think we
Much
also need to
smoother
explain who
transition.
you are first. This is
Well-
Sarah Martin. She's a professor at our undisclosed university. And so my first question for you is, what did you do in high school? And then what was your rank in high school?
That's 2 questions.
Oh.
It's not your first. It's your first 2
My
questions.
first 2 questions.
First 2 questions.
Thank
Well,
you.
it's actually really funny. Because so in high school, I did school, believe it or not. It was incredible. No, I was homeschooled.
Oh, okay.
So technically, I was ranked number 1 in my class.
Best answer.
I was also ranked the lowest in my class. So
No, you can't.
we're just gonna lean in and
Yeah.
just like cut that part out.
Yeah,
It was
we-
like
we don't have to talk
technically
about
I
that.
was number 1 in my class.
You were the valedictorian.
I was the valedictorian. No, so I grew up kind of like in the country. So I spent a lot of time. I was in 4-H actually, which is I
What
love that
is-
facial expression.
What is 4-H? I don't.
4-H is like it's all sorts of things mixed together and meshed together. And I showed animals at like state fair and stuff like that. I showed dairy
Okay,
goats.
Cool.
Yeah, and then I also did like rifle, and then I did like painting and photography, and so it was
Okay.
like this weird amalgamation of all sorts of fun things. So
Yeah,
I just kind of bounced all over.
it was pretty big back in my hometown. Like, all of the kids were in 4-H, and all of them were showing their prize cows. And
I'm clearly a
stuff like
city
that.
gal because I did not know
But
what that
you know
was.
Great. It just gave us a good opportunity to get to like explain, and I explained it very poorly.
No, I think you did a great job. I mean, once you start, I was like, yeah, I've heard of that. I've never been or I've never seen. City
But
gal.
you've heard, and now you've
yeah.
definitely heard of it.
Exactly.
yeah, now
we
you
have
can definitively
concrete
say,
solutions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really didn't peg you as a 4-H person. Honestly, you don't give off that vibe.
You know, I get that a lot. I don't know if that's like a compliment
Yeah, I don't know.
or not. I'm just kind of like, oh, okay. That's kind of like when people are like, "You were homeschooled? You?" And I'm like, okay, I can't tell if you were homeschooled and I'm a bad example of homeschoolers, or if you were not homeschooled and
You
I'm a
had
good
this,
example.
Yeah,
I'm not
weird
sure.
idea of what homeschooling was.
Exactly. I'm just confused at this point.
I didn't think you were homeschooled when I first met you, but when you said it, I was like, yeah, I can
It
see
tracks.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Well, I mean, because my best friend was homeschooled for 10-ish years, kind of. He was in public school, then moved to homeschool, then moved back to public school. So, like, he's got that homeschool vibe, and which I know very well. So when you were like, yeah, I was homeschooled, I was like,
You have the
yes,
There we
you
go.
have the vibe.
The vibe check worked. Yes, there we go. Gotcha. I didn't know I was being vibe checked, but that's good.
Constantly, it's a constant vibe check.
I should know that. At
Yeah,
this
in our
point.
society, I think you're constantly being checked for your vibe.
That's
So.
true.
So yeah, I'm actually really excited to have you on because, but I'm just you're cool. I'm cool. We're both cool, and that makes this cool.
Randy's also cool. Yeah, I was like,
The amount
"Oh,
of times they
don't
leave
leave,
the frame.
don't leave.
Please stay.
Don't leave.
But yeah, so we just wanted to talk about like your experience as a creative, because you've had a crazy ride.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been kind of all over the place. Starting with, showing animals in high school,
Yeah.
apparently. Yeah, do you want me to just,
Yeah, go into it. So just go into, like, your general story of, like, what you've done, how you ended up here, and, like, what changed along the way, I guess.
Great, okay, that's, super broad and super
Yeah.
narrow at the same time. This is gonna go great. Yeah, so, I was gonna be like, when I was a wee lass, but I won't do that. When I was a wee lass. So I actually picked up drawing in high school. And started teaching myself how to draw.
This was something you could have said when I asked.
I'm
What did
sorry.
You do in
I
high
just
school?
you asked the question and I blanked,
It's
and I
okay.
went high school. I don't remember it. Why? Because I was homeschooled, and then I went off on that, and then we got on 4-H.
okay.
So I blame Taylor. It's fine.
It is a
That's
Taylor's fault.
it's always my fault.
100%.
That's the easiest cop
why I'm
out
here.
on the podcast is if something goes wrong, it's just my fault.
No one told me that ahead of time. Now I know.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry
cool.
that I didn't fill you in on that. That was
All right.
my.
We need a little prep packet.
Yeah,
that way-
exactly. So it
If
all
this
it says
happens-
is it's always Taylor's fault. That's
Yep.
it. That's the
Okay.
whole packet.
That's the whole packet. See,
It's
it
just
would've
you
been
flip the
really
page and it's
easy to
like
put
it
together.
says it again. It's like the same. It's like The Shining. All it's typed is like it is always Taylor's fault. It is
just
always
The font
Taylor's
gets
fault.
bigger and bigger throughout
The last
pages.
page, it's in papyrus.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, Taylor designed this page. Anyway, on that note, Started drawing in high school and kind of taught myself. Did a little bit of painting classes, but never like fully picked it up. And then I went to college. I actually went to college thinking I was going to be a social work major. Like, I was advised for that walking in the door, because I wanted to do stuff in like third world countries and all sorts of stuff. And then that didn't happen. Like, at all. In part just because mentors in my life, and also me realizing that I was like, oh, I felt like I should want to do this thing, not like I was actually supposed to do this thing. So that was fun. That was a moment of Sarah's pride taking a really big beating. The weird thing was that I had come in as a freshman, gotten advised to be a social work major, and then swapped my major between signing up for classes and being advised. And so it was this really weird transition point. And it was actually my mom that ran into a major that was animation and visual effects, or as we called it, art with a job.
Okay.
It was like, ooh, this sounds intriguing. And at the time I was drawing like lots of dragons, and so I was like,
It fits.
this seems legit. I'm gonna go this way. And I thought I was gonna be an animator, and then I was like, I don't like making things move at all. I just, nope, not for me. It's cool when they move, but I do not like being the one to do that.
Process of making it move is very difficult.
Exactly. There's all sorts of stuff you have to worry about, and I'm like, but look at it. It's pretty when it's holding still. It's fantastic.
Yeah, look, I can do a great job with it. Just
Exactly. It's like
My animation.
Our
There you go.
hands.
Sarah,
It spins.
it's like, Sarah, it's not moving. Yes, he's standing still.
Yes, it is a still animation. It is fantastic. Truly, truly great piece. No, so I kind of pivoted a little bit and went through the 4 years, worked as a TA, did not sleep nearly as much as I should have. So there's some memory gaps there. Yep.
I feel that.
Yeah, it's like, how does that? I know I had an entire week on that, and I don't remember that week. It's great.
No.
Super helpful. And yeah, so I ended up leaving with a focus on 3D modeling and for film, and then walked out and realized that I really wanted to do games. Like, I was really intrigued by games and the stories that were being told, because that was what drew me to animation, was the kinds of stories that could be told. And then I had another friend and fellow TA who was like, hey, have you looked into the games industry? There's some really cool stories there. And I was like, what? So I played a little bit, but I wasn't a huge gamer. And then I started looking at that and went down the rabbit hole. Did a few animation jobs for film and stuff like that. But then I was like, I really want to do games. And discovered I did not know anything about how to make games. It's like the technology goes across, but I don't know how. Yeah. So eventually basically decided to go get my master's and use that to learn how to make games. And so in doing so, I moved to Scotland with a week's notice.
Just a week's notice?
Just a week's notice. Yeah.
How did that go? What was that whole, like...
It was a journey, because like the final go no go was a week's notice. There was a little bit of prep. There was like maybe a month lead up, because I had to apply for a visa and apply for the school and do all of that. But I was applying late enough that no other school's master's program was open.
Oh.
It was like I had like 3 schools that I narrowed it down to, did all this research, and 1 and 2, well no, 2 and 3, because Scotland was 1 anyway, because it was in Scotland. Like, how cool was that? So I was like, I want to go there. I should have other options. 2 and 3 were like, their entire process was closed. And I was like, cool. And pivoted and applied to Scotland thinking, yeah, they're probably closed, and just forgot to close their whole application process. And then got a thumbs up and a, hey, here's your visa application, go. If this goes through, you're coming to Scotland in a week. And I was like, what? What? So I moved with 2 suitcases, and my mom came over and helped me. That way she could have 1 suitcase and I could have the other suitcase, and moved me to Scotland and spent like a week trying to find an apartment in a city
You
I
didn't have an apartment or anything
no
ready.
apartment, nothing, in a city I had never been to. And so it was like, there was all these apartments we'd walk by, and it was like, oh, no, I'm not living here, no. And it just became this huge roller coaster ride of trying to put one foot in front of the other and hope for the best. And then I ended up being over there for a year and a half and studying games and getting my master's in that and working with game studios, and just it was great. Loved it. Really cool people too. You got to see castles.
Castles.
I liked it. I like castles.
You never thought, like, you were going to get your master's degree, and so it just happened that one of them was in Scotland. You weren't looking to go, like, abroad or anything.
No, I wasn't looking to go abroad. It was one of those things that I was like, it'd be kind of cool if I ended up, because I had always wanted to study abroad, but with my program, I never had time to. And so I could never take the semester, even a couple weeks to do it. And so for me, it was just like, well, you know, Scotland's pretty. That would be really cool. And then for me, it ended up being, in the UK, master's programs are only a year. And so for me, it actually ended up being so much cheaper to get a master's in the UK abroad than it was to get one in the US.
Yeah, that makes sense. That tracks.
Yeah, I was just like, I could pay for a year what I would pay for a semester here.
And you don't have to do 4 semesters.
And I don't have to do 4 semesters. I was like, this makes sense. What am I missing? No, I'm not missing. Okay, I'm a jump. So, no, it wasn't a plan. And it honestly wasn't a plan. In my bachelor's, I still remember I had a conversation with a friend who was like, you can go get your master's. And I was like, I've done my time. I'm not getting a master's. Why would I do that? And then it was like, oh, I said that with such confidence.
It's just so interesting because I being the person that I am, and I can't take change, and especially with a week's notice of, like, moving to a completely, like, new. Have you ever been to Scotland before?
I had been to a tiny island at, like, the north end of Scotland for, like, a week.
Okay.
But it was way up in the Highlands, and I was going, like, down in the middle.
In the lowlands.
Yeah, kind of, along the coast. And so it was a totally different place, totally different feel. It was just me, didn't know anyone. I was the only American in my program. And I think I met one other American the last week I was there. So it was, it was a lot of change.
No, and so, like, I'm the same way. I mean, Taylor, you've mentioned before that you are thinking about getting a master's or...
Yeah, I think in my plan, a master's for me is less about, like, I need a master's and more about, like, I just want to narrow down exactly what I want to do. And I feel like with a master's, I can really do that for myself. And I also don't think that, like, a master's is for everybody. I don't think everybody needs a master's, especially going into, like, a creative industry. It's not really necessary for a master's, but I think that for me and for what I want, a master's is definitely part of that.
And so I've told you that I don't think about getting a master's, and you didn't think about getting one either. And then the idea of Scotland came up, and you're like, yeah, let's do it.
Let's go. It was, I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of like Sarah's excuse to take an extended trip to Scotland and then be like, and for school.
There's nothing wrong with that. I would 100% do that.
Would you?
No. Well, I can't go alone. That's, like, what terrifies me.
We'll go to Scotland together.
Exactly. There we go.
I'll just, like, I'll like go and introduce you to people.
Everything. You can show us around the town.
It'll be great. I just really want to go to Scotland again, guys. Take me with you.
Please take me with you.
Please take me with you.
So can you speak a little bit more about the decision to move to Scotland? Was it something that you knew that you wanted so badly because of the major, or was it you wanted to just get out into the world? What ultimately helped you make the decision to take that big leap?
You know, it was kind of a mixture of things for me, because I was at that point, I had been trying to get a job in film and just couldn't get my foot in the door. And was finding that it wasn't something that I was super intrigued and passionate about. And so not being able to get my foot in the door was even more discouraging, because it wasn't something that I really, really, really wanted to do. It was going to be my transition point, and then I couldn't even get into the transition point. And I was like, oh no, there has to be something else. And so part of it, honestly, was desperation of just going, every other door has been closed. How in the world do I make this work now? And for me, it was like I knew I wanted to be in a creative field and really felt called to tell stories and to bring that together and to collaborate on those. And so it was a little bit of desperation and a little bit of like, okay, what can I do to still make this come together? I really want to jump into games. It's intriguing and it's new and it's being used for so many things. And so, yeah, a lot of it was in that, because it was terrifying. Please don't get me wrong. By no means is it a, like, Sarah's super brave.
No, I know, you're really downplaying it, because I can imagine the terror of having to move across countries within a week, and and it's a whole, like, new, like, way of life, and, like, you're going into, like, and after being out of school for so long, and then having to jump back into it, like, I can imagine just everything, and then...
Yeah, and for me, coming out of an incredibly stressful bachelor's degree that I had burned myself out badly in, and so it was like, oh, now I have to go back, and now I have to learn things and actually be able to balance it with life, because I'm not 18 anymore, where, I mean, I wasn't like 75, but I'm not 18 where I can,
don't
like...
think you're 75 now.
Yeah, I don't know if
not
that's...
yet. Getting there. I'm making my way. But it was just this transition point of having to realize that I have to go back to school, but it's going to be vastly different than anything that I've done before. Okay. Because I knew, it was a master's, so that alone was going to be different. And then it wasn't set up in the, like, lecture, homework. It was, we were there from 9 to 5 every day, working in a work and team environment, and that's what everything was built around.
Wow.
So it was definitely a terrifying thing, and for me it wasn't that I was like, oh, it's okay, I got this. I was like, I do not have this at all. I have no idea who has this. There's got to be an adult in the room, and I was the only person in the room, and I was like, oh. So the thing that really kept me going, though, was knowing that there was no other option. Okay. This was the last ditch, like, it's this or you give up on this dream. Yeah. And for me, I was like, I'm not ready to give up on this dream yet. I want to do this. I want to tell stories. And it was hard. It was hard. Like, now I look back and I'm like, yeah, I love Scotland. I'd go back. But, like, the first month of being there, I can't tell you how many times I was, like, curled up in my apartment, sitting next to the window, overlooking the town center square, sobbing. Because I was just like, I don't belong. My accent's weird. I had to hold out. Yeah, I was just like, you have to hold out your hand and be like, I don't know what money. Like, I owe you money. Please take what I owe you and teach me what it is. Like, what? Why is it a quid? Oh, that's a pound. What does the pound coin look like? Why is it a coin? It's not a dollar. I'm very confused. And so,
please just take American money. Just take American money.
I don't know. And then it was just, and then there was a 7-hour time difference.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh, jet lag.
Yeah,
Nice.
so the jet lag was bad, but then if I ran into a problem,
friends or family, or like, it was,
Yeah, it was like, it was 2 a.m. there, and I was like, I can't call. Like, and if I do call, they're going to be so tired, it's going to be, this is my job. I have to adult now. Oh no. So it was, it was terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. But, honestly, like, it just, I knew this was where I was called to be, because every other door was closed. And I was just like, okay, Lord, you brought me here. You better do something with it. It was just like, I'm showing up and I am here, and that's all I've got left. And so there were so many times that I was just like, one friend, just one, that would be great. Like, that'd be awesome. And, you know, it ended up being a phenomenal program, and I still have friends that I talk to. One of them is designing my wedding invitations.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. So I met some amazing people.
Weddings.
I love it. It was a journey, but definitely worth it. Like, now, looking back, it's kind of like the same thing. I was talking to a freshman class, and it was kind of fun because Jesse introduced me, and he was talking about, he was like, yes, and the most intimidating thing was that in the interview, she walked in and was like, yes, I used to work at the Secret Service. And it was like, what? And so it flipped the dynamic. And so for me now, having worked at the Secret Service, it's like, that was the most terrifying job interview I'm ever going to do.
Yeah.
What'd you do with the Secret Service?
Yeah.
I don't think we've said yet.
So I was what they call a visual information specialist. And so what I did is I built 3D models that were then used in training and in, like, site familiarization and stuff like that. And so we would walk agents through real-world places using video games technology. And so the nice thing is, having done that interview and gotten the job, it was kind of nice to be like, I have now done the most terrifying interview I will ever do. Everything else from here is still going to be scary, but I did that. I'm good. And so same thing with Scotland is it's like now, when I moved here pretty short notice and was moving from 2 places because I was moving from DC and from New Mexico where I was. And it was like, this is really stressful. But I moved to Scotland on a week's notice, so I got this.
I already did. I got this.
I got this. It'll be fine. So it was good for me because it taught me what I can do. Mm-hmm. And that I can do things that I'm like, there's no way, I don't want, no. And it's like, well, you're here, and you're in a foreign country, and you have to figure out the money.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the bus driver will yell at you again.
And you won't understand what he's saying because his accent's so strong.
It's like, when you're in the Highlands, it does become an issue, but more and more, I found the opposite problem. I'd call home and people couldn't understand me.
That's so
You picked
strange.
up the accent.
I picked up the accent really strongly.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Really strongly.
Well, I mean, because Scotland does have a pretty strong accent to begin with, so I can see that, you know, so you picking it up. That's hilarious. How quick before you picked it up? Because you're only there for like a year and a half, right?
I was there for a year and a half. By the time I came home, there was one person who could tell I wasn't Scottish. And it was because she was American and she was from a similar place, and I said like 1 or 2 words that she caught the American inflection in. But other than that, I mean, it took a few months. I would say by the time I came home for Christmas, I wasn't fully there yet. But after Christmas, gosh, I think it was only like 6 months that it took me to really lean into it and end up with that really strong accent. Partially because I was working more and more and more with a very Scottish team, and so I pick up accents anyway. I always have. And so it's just like, it was very Scottish. Very Scottish.
That's awesome.
That makes sense. I mean, I was going to speak because I don't pick up accents, but like when I'm talking to somebody who has an accent, I will start speaking in that accent, which I try to like stifle because I don't want to like offend them and be like I'm making fun of them. But I looked it up, and apparently it's something like within your mind you're trying to make them feel more comfortable talking to you. And so, like, I do it, so I can imagine, like, within the first week of being there, I'd probably start speaking in the act, like, constantly.
I still, when someone at a restaurant, if I'm tired or if I'm not paying attention or I'm absorbed in the conversation, someone at a restaurant will, like, give me my food or give me a drink, and I'll literally go, cheers, ta, and then I'm like, thank you, thank you. That's what we say in this country is thank you. It's like, oh, no. And that was one I picked up from a Highland friend who, because cheers is thank you, and ta is thank you, and then he would tie them together and cheers ta. So every time we go somewhere on the bus, that's what I heard.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
It's thank you, thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Yes, thank you for this bus ride. It was phenomenal bus ride.
Phenomenal.
Thank your bus driver before you leave, people.
It's very important.
It is important. Okay, so let's talk more about like creative stuff. So this is okay. Brain.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I was waiting for this moment because we didn't talk beforehand about what we were going to be talking about, and so I was like, I'm gonna leave it up to you. Where do you want to go? And I was waiting for this moment of you being like, brain.
Yes. So your creative life has been all over the place because you've done creative work in a not creative setting, in a very logistical setting, as well as you've done just purely creative work. So I was just wondering, like, when it comes to creativity, do you have, because I have like a mantra, right? I've always said that I think that creativity should breed more creativity, should inspire others to create. Do you have like a specific creative mantra that you run by, that you know of, or do you why do you create? What's the purpose? Because you seem to be very set on like, I was in a very not creative-ish program for a really long time, and then you left that to come here to teach people how to create and how to be creative. Why? What was so important to you about creativity that you left a very, very high-paying but high-stress job?
Ooh, so for me, the thing that I have always been enamored by from the time I was like itty bitty, sitting in my dad's lap, like reading whatever book he would give me. Like, I read Pilgrim's Progress in first grade because he just put me down with the book and I read it. And same thing with like Three Musketeers, and like I was just reading constantly because I loved story. And I loved the truth that you can tell in stories because it's so powerful. I think that the arts and creativity are extremely powerful because we get to speak into an area that most people don't get to, and that people are more willing to listen to and to try to understand because it speaks at a different level than, you know, other things that we try to do. If I just go up to you on the street and try to tell you a truth, you're gonna be like, who the heck are you?
And why should I listen to you?
Exactly. It's like, okay, you weirdo, you know, whatever. But if I can sit down and tell you a story, whether I'm there or not, then I can get you thinking. And I think that's incredibly powerful. And the stories that we tell, they always reflect a worldview. They always reflect something that we believe, whether we intend to or not. And so the thing that I love is when we use that intentionally, there is so much power behind it. There's so much truth that we can tell, and there's so much that we can address that we can't do directly. And so for me, that's why I create, is because everything is storytelling. I love character design and environment design because there's just story in every element of it, every choice that you make. But it's the same with writing. It's the same with plays. It's the same with video games and films. There's story there. Whether it's a strong story or not is a totally different question. But it's always saying something, and it's always having an intention and a purpose. And so if we can use that well, there's so much power behind it. And so that's why I wanted to be here, is because I also love to collaborate. This is why I play D&D, is because it's collaborative storytelling, and you get so many different views and perspectives, and you end up with something very rich. And so for me, getting to jump into teaching is that same idea. It's not me standing up front going, listen to me, I'm super smart. If it was, that would fall apart real quick, because I say some very dumb things. But it's me getting to stand there and help you create stories and help you find your voice and collaborate with you. And some of that's from experience of don't do this dumb thing that I did. But a lot of it is just helping you see the stories that you're trying to tell, because they're going to be different from my stories. And so for me, that's what I love about teaching. That was a very long-winded answer.
That was a great
That
answer.
was a great answer.
Yeah.
What's like your preferred, so you've talked a lot about like storytelling, and that's like every guest that we have on, we have like a specific topic that they want to discuss, and you keep coming back to like you're a storyteller, which I think we all are storytellers. That's why we're in this field. So what medium, you've done a lot of different things. I mean, I think you do like concept art, and you've like helped develop video games and things like that. What's your like preferred method of storytelling? And you also play D&D and so many things,
So honestly, it changes based on the season that I'm in. There's some times that I love leaning into concept art. Like, gosh, I'm watching some shows right now that the art is so beautiful that I'm like, I just want to sit down and paint. I just want to paint, and I want to draw characters, and I want to make them this cool, and I just want to do pretty things with so much story. But, so it depends on the season, because right now, I don't have the time or the energy to pour into concept art the way that I would like to. But honestly, the one that has been long-standing and like a constant thread for me is D&D.
Okay.
I love it. I
When
love
did you
it.
start playing?
Oh gosh, okay. This is fun. So, ironically, I started by playing Pathfinder when I was in Scotland. I had a friend who wanted to run it. And
What is Pathfinder for people who don't know?
okay. D&D and Pathfinder introduction module. So both of them are tabletop role-playing games, and you have a system, you have dice you roll, you have numbers, and you have all these things to help you tell a story. And different people do it different ways. There's some people who focus on combat, there's some people who focus on puzzle, there's some people who focus on stories, and every group is different. And that's part of what I love about it, is it's flexible. And so Pathfinder is just a different system than Dungeons & Dragons. It's a lot of the same concepts and the same underlying genre, basically, but it is, or at least it used to be, so I don't know. I'm always afraid to say things on the internet like, it is this, because then someone will know more than me and correct me. It's great.
Don't listen to them.
It's fine. I am the one on the show. No.
Exactly. They're not on the show.
That's a great stance to take. Super humble.
I am the leader right now.
I am the leader.
I
I am in charge.
But
Oh no. And it's
it's
circles.
true, because You're not like Taylor.
I have the microphone.
Yeah.
That's great. I'll just snatch it away. No, I said I wouldn't touch it. I promised.
I can feel it like in your veins. You're like, I really want to touch
really
it now,
just,
but now I know I can't because I said I
I
promised.
said I should know not to make promises.
I don't know if that's something someone engaged should be saying.
Oh, yeah, probably not. It's fine. There's some promises. Okay, I'm just backtracking now. I can't walk that
There's
back.
some
can I?
promises.
There's
Where
some
was that
promises.
gonna
It's
go?
okay. I don't know.
Where was
That's
that headed?
that's why I stopped. I was like, there's no winning on this. I've already lost. It's fine. This will live with me forever. See, when I said I say dumb things, I meant it. People don't believe me, and then I say something, they're like, oh. There we go. But Pathfinder is a little bit more math-based, whereas D&D is, or at least is restructured now to be a little bit more story-based. And so I played Pathfinder, and honestly, I didn't like it, and I didn't enjoy it, and I was like, I am never doing that again. And then I came back to the States, and I had a friend who was like, you should watch this D&D podcast, and this is what D&D can be. And I was like, oh, because it was a storytelling group. And so eventually, I had a friend who, her husband was starting a D&D campaign, and so they managed to fit me in, and it was this whole thing. And ironically, that's where I met back up with my fiance, is because he was playing, and I walked in the door and I went, oh no, oh no, I still have a crush on this guy who I haven't seen in I don't even know how many years. And I was just like, oh no.
That's so great.
What's up,
What do you mean? Oh no.
I was coming back from Scotland with this thick accent and like, I was like,
That's cute.
apparently he thought so. So
It worked out.
I don't know how, but it worked somehow. It must have been charming in some way. It's fine.
Sari, I think you have a very low self-view.
No, but it's way more fun because I can make you laugh this way. It's great. And then no one can mock me because I already mocked myself.
Yeah,
It's fine.
take that, mockers.
Yeah.
Mockers.
on the
I'm in
internet.
charge.
I'm in charge. Anyway, and so I started playing that. And it's been, oh gosh, somebody else knows the numbers and I know they do. It's been a few years at this point because it was before Secret Service. It's been a while. I want to say it's been
I
like
thought
3
you
years.
assumed that one of us knew the numbers, and I was like, I don't think either of us
Yeah.
know the numbers.
I don't know because I might have mentioned it at one point. Maybe you held on to that number. I don't know. I think it's been like 3 years now.
Okay. I was
Something
gonna say like
we're
5.
Gonna go with 3. We're gonna go. It's a good medium.
Awesome.
It's fine. It's more than 1, less than 10. It's great. I think it's been about 3 years, maybe more. But so I've been playing since then, and I both play. I've run games. I've done both pre-written campaigns and stories that already exist. I'm building a homebrew world that I ran my friends through and my players through. It was supposed to be a one-shot. It took 3 sessions.
Oh my goodness.
And that was my bad entirely. But they liked it.
Yeah, they had fun. That's what matters.
Exactly. And it just means that I trapped them for like 12 hours. 9, 12 hours, something like that. It was fun.
12 hours in total?
In
Or
total,
like,
in total.
Okay,
Not-
like
not
12
each
hours
time.
at a time? That's
That would have been
hardcore D&D
really,
gameplay.
really poor planning on Sarah's part. So this was supposed to be a one-shot that lasts 4 hours, but instead it was 3 12-hour sessions.
Okay,
No,
okay.
it wasn't that bad,
Okay.
thankfully. No. They were very patient with me as I was learning, because it's storytelling but in a different way, because everybody's feeding into it, and I love it because you have to adapt and you get so much depth off of it, and you can tell these wonderful, beautiful personal stories in a sense that everybody's getting to sit down and explore things and try things and get to know one another. Some of my closest friends are the ones who are in D&D with me because we tell stories and we learn things. Yeah. D&D.
Yeah, I was gonna
Just
say, what
yes.
do you want to? Because we've been in a D&D campaign
Yeah,
together.
I've been in a couple.
You've done definitely more than me, so you speak
Yeah.
on it.
I mean, I enjoy D&D like a lot. I don't have enough time to sit down and do it right now because we're so busy, and
Oh gosh.
it's so sad because my friends all are like, we're about to do a D&D campaign. Do you want to join? I'm like, yes, but I can't.
It's the worst
Um,
feeling.
But what I love about D&D is the ability to, like, there's so many different facets of storytelling that you can bring together all at once. So you were saying you've run some pre-built campaigns and you've made your own. That's what I think is fun, is because even with like a pre-built campaign, there's still so much room for creativity because if you're DMing, if you're dungeon master, if you're the person that's running the campaign, making sure the story is progressing, you're just sort of like you're like the god of the world.
Bold.
Kind of, in the sense that like you have to
You're
keep things.
100% the god. Is that not how it works? Or
It is, but at the same time, like those who have been DMs also know that the players can like throw you so far off track.
Right,
It's
Absolutely.
like,
okay,
yeah.
never mind.
what?
Because
I planned all of this.
Exactly.
And
It's
you're
like,
doing
why did
all
you
of
go
that.
left? That
That's
wasn't even an
Everything
option.
was pointing right.
Exactly. It's like, oh, and next time we will pick this up because it's
Yeah.
like I don't know what we're doing now.
But that's the fun about it, right? Is that everybody gets to participate in telling the story. Everyone has created their own characters. You've created either a world or characters in the world, or you're running with an idea of where the story is going to go. And everybody gets to participate in creating one big story. And I love that, right? Because you never know where it's going to end up. You come in with one character, like I make a lot of jokey characters. I have...
It does not surprise me like at all.
I've told you some of my characters. My
I know.
favorite one that I've ever come up with is a skeleton necromancer who's trying to bring his friends back to life. But I played a kenku, which is like a little bird person, typically like a crow. And he was an alchemist that was just
Trying to bring
Trying
his
to-
wife back to
trying
life.
to bring his wife back to life.
I'm sensing a theme.
There is a theme. Dude, who are you trying to bring back?
What is this?
It's between me and them, okay?
He's like, it's not worked yet. Don't worry about it. I'll let you know.
That's why I'm running a podcast, is to get ideas of how to bring
How to get it back.
But I played that character, and it's just a chaotic character who kind of just does what he wants and doesn't really listen to anyone else. But
We played that campaign together, and I don't ask me who my character was, because I don't know. But I was the like babysitter of your character. Like I was constantly stopping you from getting into trouble and like putting you on my shoulder. Like, okay, stay here. No more.
He went in with no trust with anybody. In fact, in the first session, I believe I killed one of our characters.
You did. You killed one of our friends.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Like in cold blood.
No, completely. Like shot, like dead. That was like, no warning or anything.
Oh no.
But then eventually, like, he opens up, and it's just that, like, that's my personal story with that campaign. Everybody else had their own personal stories with the campaign that they went into, and then the story as a whole, and how that changes the story as a whole. How my character's decision to steal small pieces of a bone impacts the entire story, can impact an entire town, and how that impacts the relationships with the other characters. It's such a, like, there's so many things you can do with one story when other people are involved with it, and that's what I think makes D&D so fun and so like a great way to practice storytelling in an environment that's, if you have the correct players, very positive.
Well, and to kind of build on that is like there's also the point that it takes time to build the trust between a group of players to create some really phenomenal stories. Like the first few times you play with groups, you're gonna tell some cool stories and stuff's gonna happen. You're gonna have memories. But having played with pretty much the same group, or at least the same core group for about 3 years, I'm gonna start saying about, and then nobody can correct me. About 3 years.
Exactly.
Is that trust grows. And so now I'm able to play and like I'll put something down and somebody will pick it up and go left with it and I'm like, oh. But I trust the storytellers around me enough to let them run with it, and then I run with them and we match pace and we shift and stuff like that. And so the stories get better as time goes on because you know each other more and you trust each other more. It's like any working relationship or any relationship is with time, trust grows.
Yeah, and when that trust grows, you have the ability to open up and tell more vulnerable stories, which are more powerful and more fun to play and then to engage with. And that's why I love D&D, and that's why I want to play more D&D.
I think it's so interesting because I've been a part of 2 campaigns and neither one of them have been finished. I started one in high school with all of my high school friends, and then we started one like a year ago with like all of our college friends.
2 years ago.
2 years ago at this
Because
point?
we started before COVID.
No, we did
Yes,
not.
we did.
Yeah.
We did, because we started during We started in like January of 2020,
No,
so it's
we
been
did
almost.
not.
We did.
When I got here, you guys were telling me about a D&D group that you hadn't played in for a good while because of the pandemic. Wow.
Yeah, because we were doing.
That doesn't make any sense though in my brain.
No.
'Cause
That or you lied to me. I mean, that's
No, no,
totally
no, no, no,
possible
no.
too.
I'm just thinking because I'm trying to figure out the timeline, and I was really close with the person who DM'd that campaign, and I was like, so we had only known each other for like 2 months
Yeah, it was-
before we started a campaign together.
It was December
That
we because we did it
boggles
over winter break.
my mind.
That was the first session we had was right when winter break started because it was before COVID, but none of us could get together because we were all on winter break.
Oh, we never actually had. You're right,
We
because
had-
we
Oh,
never
you never
had
got
it
to be
in
at the
person.
We had
table.
one-
We never were at the.
We did in
Oh.
October on Halloween. We had it in person.
No.
No, it didn't. It did.
How long ago? Do you know? Did you see it?
I looked up like 3 minutes ago and it was on, I think.
Okay.
All right. Well, are they both full? Cool. Great.
I have a memory card. I think I did.
Great. We're professionals.
Hey,
We are.
no, this is great.
It's cool.
I
This
love it.
this is this kind of stuff you run into this problem and then you never have it again.
It's just gonna be fun when you get to edit because you'll have to take from.
I can take more
3.
videos.
Hey, I love it.
You
I
need
love
another
it.
SD card, right? That's
Yeah.
what we're.
How
I
much?
have
Yeah. How much do you have?
64 gigs, and if you want to clear it before, is it possible to clear it?
Not
Hey, Cam,
Cam.
Cam.
would you run over to my office or have somebody run over to my office and let Brittany know we'll be there soon?
Yes.
Because for practicum, I don't want her to sit there too long.
I can do that.
Perfect. Or just send her a text or something on the Discord.
I just saw her leave the building. So
Oh, okay.
So I
That's
just ran
good.
over
So I'm
there
not
for
as worried now.
support.
Okay.
Less
We're good.
worried now.
I just didn't want her sitting outside my office going, guys. Guys. I was like, oh no.
Straight crotch, my bad.
That was straight crotch.
This is great, guys. It's cool.
It's cool. We only have about 6-7 minutes left in this episode, anyways.
I'm
Not
gonna leave
even.
that there just in case.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That's fair.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, cool. Hit the record, please.
I will.
Okay.
How long do we wait before?
I don't know. We're probably good now, honestly.
Just give me 2 more seconds just to. Wow, so all that I don't know where we stopped, but so I was part of 2 campaigns, and neither one of them have been finished because just relationships. I'm not in high school anymore. I don't get to see my high school friends anymore, and like just everything. And so it's interesting to see like D&D. Like I like it, but it's just not my forte. It's the way, especially we played it, which I know we don't. As much as we wanted to play it like the proper way, where like the characters are actually like intermingling, talking to like each other and things, like there's a lot of like story building, but we didn't really focus on that. We did a lot more of like the battles, and now we're gonna fight, and now we're gonna go here, and then we're gonna fight, and so it wasn't the same kind of thing. But it's interesting to see that if we had continued to do it, that would have developed over time. So I never got to really experience that like euphoria of like story building with like other creatives and things like that.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the
Yeah.
thing is I think that I really want to do it with like a bunch of creatives that we know,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then do a long session, and then do maybe a couple long sessions on one story just to see where it goes. But the problem is that like we've got to find the time to do that because
Yeah.
D&D is like a commitment, right?
It's 100. Yeah.
It takes a long time, and it's not for everybody, but it is really fun. And I think that there's
No,
this
yeah.
there was a stigma that seems to be breaking nowadays,
It's starting to.
where people were like D&D is for nerds, but it's well, yeah. I mean,
I was
kinda.
gonna say,
I was like,
it's always going to be
everything
for
is?
nerds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just nerds about different things.
Yeah, you know, right? Right? You can be a car nerd. Anyways, what I'm saying is that, like, I wouldn't count it out if you just are like, you gross D&D, because it is really a fun way to engage with your friends and to tell stories that you might not get to tell, and to really practice your character creation, your story building, and, like, how to interact, how people would interact, right? Because writing interactions is difficult. Coming up with ways people interact is difficult, but playing D&D gives you you're sitting there with possibly 5-6 other people and just pretending to have real conversations and seeing how that works and sort of taking notes is a good way to practice your own storytelling. So
It really is. I think that's the thing that I love is every group looks different, every story looks different, and sometimes the focus is more on combat. Some people love that. Some people love the number crunching. Some people love just the storytelling. Some people love funny voices and funny stories. And that was something I was going to say, is that the vulnerability in storytelling doesn't always have to be this, look at my deep, dark, mysterious, horrible past. Like, it can be these moments of ridiculousness and silliness and humor and the things that make you excited and you hopeful and you joyful. Jesse got to, I dragged Jesse into a game. It was really fun. Because it was the first time he'd ever played. And I ran around as this tiny little lizard folk person who had a giant sword that was like 3 times her size,
Yes.
and she'd just swing it around. And it was fun for me because I got to be like whimsical and ridiculous and silly and like, but still like do massive amounts of damage.
Yes.
Which was really fun for me because it got to showcase a part of me. And so I think that's what I love is, yes, it's storytelling and it's got richness and depth, but it showcases pieces and elements of the storytellers who are in it really well and very naturally, especially as time goes on and as you practice it.
Yeah.
Which I don't think, and especially for the campaigns that I was in, like with the second one, because of COVID, we weren't able to actually like meet. So there were just so many different things that were like kind of dooming that from the beginning, I guess. I don't know.
But you've learned, and like
Yeah.
it's like if you ever jump in future, you know, because I know some groups do fantastic online, and like I have one group that's entirely online, and it's very fun. But we have all said I miss being at the table with people because there's body language, and there's something about being in a room with people.
We did have we had 2 sessions together.
I had one session together in person. I think you guys might have had a second one.
No, remember we all went over for Halloween?
We did. I remember
Is
that.
that the one you're talking
That's
about?
the one I'm talking about.
Okay, never mind.
We had one session in person on Halloween.
And we all dressed up as our characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
I
really
love
fun. That was I
That
think
was
I
really
do
fun.
better in person because I remember really enjoying that day.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
We're running into so many technical difficulties that we have to
Yeah.
wrap this episode up. So last sort of thoughts. Thank you.
See,
It
it's
does-
weirdly
it does go
long.
too long.
It's
Just like-
weirdly
Like
long.
just like a second
Yeah.
too long. Like not enough for it to be like, oh, it's
'Cause
going
there's
too long.
odd break there too,
Right,
where
and
it's
there's-
oh, and then it's not.
And
And then
Yeah.
it's like it gets a second wave of enthusiasm. So all in all, I think one of the big things we ended up talking about is like storytelling and how your storytelling or your want to tell stories affected your path in life, and which I think is really cool, right? To double down and be like, yes, I'm a storyteller. Yes, I want to tell stories. Who cares what that looks like, right? As long as I can do that and have fun is really, really admirable, right?
It's that passion that we always like come back to in like every episode. I feel like is that like you had such a drive for it. You weren't gonna let like moving across countries or like you just and then switching majors. Like you had this in like just in you that you wanted to tell stories. And I think everybody has that in them. It's just their different mediums and ways of going about it. I mean, life is like stories, so it's
Yeah.
It is.
All right, so let's move on to some quick recommendations, if we can.
what?
I don't know. I was just gonna recommend
Go.
something cool.
Okay, you can make a recommendation.
I was gonna recommend that you guys play D&D. That's
Oh,
what I was
you
gonna
stole
recommend.
mine! Oh. 10 out of 10.
I think that's probably the recommendation.
Okay.
Mine, at least. If you guys have an idea.
I have a board game that I could recommend that I haven't gotten to play with you guys yet, that I've been wanting to for years.
Well, okay, then say it.
It's called Time Stories.
Okay.
I think I explained this to you briefly.
You have, and it sounded intriguing.
Yeah, it's kind of like D&D. It's kind of except you don't make your own characters, and there is like a set story. You choose the character that you want, and then you're going on missions trying to solve a mystery. And so the original like overall idea of it is that you are like time travelers, and so you have to keep going. Each like game you play has extensions, and so you keep going back in time trying to find these anomalies, and you have to work with your team and like do like character building things like that to like solve clues. And the best way to play it, and the way that we don't usually play it, but because when you find a clue, you're only supposed to leave it like to yourself. That way then later when you have a meeting, then you can come up with the clues instead of like showing it to the person across the table and be like, look, this is what I found. You have to like put it in your brain and then like re-explain it without just showing them, you know.
Mhm.
So I don't know, I really like that, and we haven't been able to play it. I have like all of the extensions. Never been able
Slowly
to play it.
collecting it.
Exactly. Never been able to play it with anybody. We just don't have time, and yeah, so
I have a recommendation. Actually, it's for a game. I was gonna do D&D, but you stole it.
I'm
it's fine.
sorry for
It's
being
cool.
too cool.
It's cool. Oh, that's what it is. 100%. So there's a game called The Quiet Year. So it's actually a game it can use like a normal deck of cards, or they have their own, but it's a world building game. So we've used it for D&D to create. We've done it once. It was so fun, and I want to do it more. But to create a world or an environment or a city or whatever it is, and it's you go through the year and you have different things. You act as a group of people, and so you go through and you draw cards, and that means you get to choose between these things, make a decision, and at the end of it, winter comes, and so that's the end of the game. Is whenever that winter is coming. Is whenever that card is drawn, the world building ends. The game ends, whether those questions are answered or not, whether everything's completed or not. And it's really cool because you get to build the structure of a community and see, did they decide to pursue this thing? Maybe one of the cards you draw is that people die and you have to explain why. And so you're not playing as a character, you're playing as the community and building things together. And so it's very fascinating, very fun, and really helpful if you're building any worlds or you just want to understand how to build worlds or just tell stories. So
What's the name of it again?
I think it's The Quiet Year. The Quiet Year.
Okay,
Wow,
cool.
okay.
All right. Sick. Do you have anything you'd like to plug before we sign off?
I'm just gonna copy Jesse. I'm not gonna lie. See, I researched and I listened to his episode and I was like, I can do this. I can do podcast maybe. But same thing is like, these are conversations that kickstarted on conversations with these guys in classes and in practicums and in the hallways and in, me going, play D&D, and they were like, yeah, which I shout a lot up and down the hallways of the
Just
school.
always.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's great. And so, yeah, if you want to learn stories and have fun and hang out with Jesse and I and watch us yell at each other in storytelling class, it's great because we teach video games and it's fun. Come to school here. That
To school.
that could have been a much stronger pitch, and it wasn't.
To our
to school
undisclosed.
It's fine. If they want it badly enough, they'll research it and they'll discover
easily
it.
find
Yeah,
it.
it's not that hard to find.
Easily.
Really
Yeah,
easy, in
it's
fact.
gonna be.
You have to take that
gonna be
step.
great.
We're not gonna hand it to you.
No, you have to want it.
Yeah.
Also, I want to... are you cool with plugging your dice building?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we can. Oh, I didn't even think of that. Yes.
That's a good thing to plug a business.
I don't know. So I make dice. Wow, I'm doing really great at pitching and
You're
plugging.
killing it.
I make resin dice for D&D and for Pathfinder and any tabletop games. They're 7-piece sets, and I make them by hand, and I polish them, and I sand them, and it is fun, and it is cool, and it is called Rosie Cricket. And I'm on Instagram, and I have a website. Yay, dice!
Yay!
Yay!
All right. Thanks so much for joining us on this intellectual journey. We will catch you guys in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.
Cool. Media for the Intellectually Impoverished is hosted by Trey Taylor Smith and Miranda Randy Zapes.
Produced by Cam Ritchie and edited by Kat Trapella.
You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at MFTII Podcast.
Subscribe to our YouTube at Media for the Intellectually Impoverished or email us at mftiipodcast@gmail.com.
Thanks for listening.